expect to talk that much, but
no, but in this coming one, you can talk a lot.
well, this is the one, I made sure I got some tea, and I usually don't drink caffeinated tea. And when I do, like the first 20 to 30 minutes, I talk a lot. So that's what you caught me on the
All right, we're going to bring on Mercury now before your inspiration runs dry, because I think this one's challenging. But let's explore it, because it's partly the conversation that provokes different thoughts for each of us. So.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and get into Mercury then. So
okay.
Mercury for a Scorpio ascendant. So we're thinking about the fact that Mercury rules over the 8th and the 11th house for a Scorpio ascendant. And then we have Mercury debilitated in the 5th and exalted in the 11th. So this is actually, in a way, a kind of potential reversal of what we saw with Venus.
Yes.
But let's just start with the fact that Mercury rules the 8th and the 11th house for Scorpio ascendant. Now, I have a few thoughts, but before I launch into them, do you have any ideas in your notes or any things that you wanted to share, or even questions that you had that we could discuss?
Great, thanks, Ryan. Yes, I definitely. I think this will be one where I'll be asking questions, but I can set the scene, which is the 8th house and the 11th house would generally, both of them, be considered in their own way difficult for different reasons. So 8th house is a house of transformation and change, and we've got the sudden breaks thing, so we all know that kind of energy. And then the 11th house we've talked about with your reputation and your status, and your getting recognition and your social networking and the big organizations. But from a yoga point of view, it can be a bit of a yoga breaker, because it has got this ego desires and fulfilling your own desires thing. And so putting these two together is interesting also because the planet is Mercury, and Mercury can have that changeable intellect, or that ability to see an argument on both sides, and in fact argue an argument on both sides because of the enjoyment of the actual intellectual activity of doing that. And then when you put that together with 8 being quite changeable, and perhaps the 11th house having that potential to be selfishly driven, perhaps leading the Scorpio ascendant here to be a little ungrounded in that, a bit open to being pushed one way or the other, and not having a real sense of inside themselves a core truth or issues around there.
Well, and if we think about it, as we went through in the final class in year 2 of the apprenticeship course with the mathematical yogas, we know that the 3rd, 6th, and 11th lords, they're considered to be yoga breakers, or things that get in the way of a person's destiny. Yes. And that when we, the 11th lord is the strongest of them all.
Yes.
When we couple that with the fact that it rules over the 8th house, well, that shows us that it is this Mercury that can really get in the way of the Scorpio's path in life. And that's probably one of the main reasons why Mercury is an enemy to Scorpio, right? And Mercury is an enemy to Mars, I should say.
Yep.
Anytime you get Mercury and Mars together, or Mars and Mercury sign, that's difficult, because we have this quality of Mars that wants to be instinctual, get things done, do the right thing. And I don't mean do the right thing and, this political party thinks it's the right thing, or that political party thinks it's the right thing. I mean, just when it comes down to life, it's the right thing to pick someone up who's just like broken their leg crossing the street. It's the right thing to feed someone who's starving, these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's the right thing to run out of a house that's burning. It's just the right thing to do. But Mercury gets in the way because the person overthinks it. The person says, oh, well, is it really the right thing to do? Well, let me think about all the philosophy that I've gone through. And it causes the Martian energy to be short-circuited. And so Mercury can very much get in the way of a Scorpio ascendant's direction in life. However, there's a place for everything.
Yes.
There's one thing aside from the over-sexuality aspect that we talked about with the Venus video. There's one other aspect of Mercury that people often think, they say, Scorpio is known for this.
Mm-hmm.
What is one thing that most people think Scorpio is known for? Anything come to mind?
Well, I'm taking a guess at your question, but we haven't talked about an obsession with the occult or an interest in the depths of the occult. So is that what you're hinting at?
Yeah, yeah. You've hit sort of the idea below the umbrella that I was going for. But the umbrella is research.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, research and analysis. And the occult and diving deep into the kind of mysteries, that's a specific kind of research. But one of the things that Scorpio is supposed to be very good at is like digging deep down and doing research. And if we think about it now, we've got Mercury ruling the 8th house, also ruling the house of gains, the 11th house. So this is one of those reasons why Scorpios can be known for making gains in the world, making improvements in the world through research, because Mercury itself is a planet that gives a mind that can see multiple points of view, come to a conclusion about what is the best way to proceed, which is essentially good research, right? So this is one of the positive qualities of this Mercury. Now, the difficult quality there is that many people who are into research don't know when to stop.
Okay, yeah.
You know, it's like they're always, if they find one fantastic technique or one fantastic astrological technique, it's like they just cannot rest. There must be more. There must be more. They might stumble upon a very fantastic system that works very well, but they really want to push it further. And that's not a bad thing, but it's just like therapy or counseling. When you turn therapy or counseling into a hobby or an addiction, well, then it sort of defeats its purpose, So when we look at this exaltation idea, well, we've got Mercury exalted in the 11th house, which shows if they take that mercurial quality, that 8th house quality, and they channel it into kind of matching up their desires with improving the world, digging deep, doing research, specifically with a Virgoan energy, which relates to more of a practical side to things. A Scorpio ascendant can thrive with that 8th and 11th house rulership of Mercury. On the other hand, if we take that 8th and that 11th house energy and we stick it in the 5th, which is where Mercury is debilitated for a Scorpio ascendant, well, what happens? Well, now we're taking that mercurial mind and we're taking the mercurial desires and we're sticking it in the house of good past life karma. We're sticking it in the house of our children, our creativity. And oftentimes the 5th house is a house, I'm using this word only because I don't have a better word right now. I know there's one in there. But the idea, it can be somewhat of a selfish house in the sense of a person really wants to express their unique traits. They want to express and be creative with their unique skill sets.
Definitely.
And so if a Scorpio ascendant is trying to direct all this energy of Mercury 8th house lordship and 11th house lordship into this 5th house, which is really supposed to be kind of a house with pure motives, then we start to get a more confused Scorpio. We get a Scorpio that again is trying to do something to support their own children, their own family, their own creative ideas, rather than thinking more globally, thinking more bigger picture, which is what the 11th house is all about. So again, we see, just like with the Venus video, an emphasis away from selfishness and an emphasis towards some kind of selfless action in the world. Do you follow what I'm saying here? Yeah, I do. Yeah, and there's some other patterns there as well, aren't there, that not on the house level, but on the sign level, that for Mars, we also encourage Mars to go to the Earth sign of Capricorn and take that problem solving into practical application. And here, again, we're encouraging that the exaltation is in this Earth sign of Virgo, again, so it's got that, and I think we're going to talk about that with the moon as well. Right. So that the energy towards Earth is quite important. And I think there's also a word that you picked up there. Do you think the purity of Virgo is important here as well? There's something about purity of motive and consciousness of speech, or not getting sucked into the dark side, or... Yeah, purity of motive is a good one, but I think what it really comes down to, we use the word practical a lot for Virgo, but practical might not necessarily be the best word in this kind of context. It's more like, you know, when you get involved in a situation, you can like get right to the point and take care of the problem, or you can waste a lot of time, try all different kinds of techniques. You know, you can, the whole idea of Virgo for a Scorpio ascendant, the reason Mercury works well is because maybe the word efficient is more appropriate there.
Yeah.
There's not wasting any time. It's getting right to the point.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
If we take that Mercury and stick it in Pisces, well, what happens? There's nothing, there's no focus.
No boundaries, yeah.
It's like, I mean, I don't know. I've never really seen fire in space. But, you know, when fire is burning, well, I guess, you know, I'm out in space right now. So
yeah, try it out.
Fire in space, what does it do? Same thing.
Same thing.
Anyway.
Surprising, man.
If we think about fire on the earth plane, you know, it burns, it has to have a fuel source, and it burns and it inspires, it rises upward. Possibly if I imagine fire in space, there's no direction to it. And maybe it becomes a globe. Again, I don't know, you know, maybe it disperses. But the fire of Scorpio, and water is the same way. You know, when water settles, it has the capacity to nourish the earth, right? And Scorpio is a water sign. If you take water and you stick it in more water, what's it doing? It just dissolves into the rest of the ocean of water. If you stick water in space, I'm thinking about Jupiter here with Pisces and the ether element, you know, it turns into a ball, and it's not able to necessarily, from what I understand, be absorbed into things so easily or stick to things.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Consider Mercury's role in Pisces. You know, that's why Mercury does not do so well in Pisces, because there's nothing for it to, there's no food for it, there's no fuel for it. You know, Mercury, just like Venus, is about success in this material world.
Yeah.
If you're out in the infinite and anything is possible, Mercury becomes essentially ineffective. Because Mercury needs something to manage. Does this make sense?
It really does. Yeah,
is it
it's
not
great.
So?
It is so. I declare it so.
Anyway, so any other thoughts from your end about this idea of Mercury ruling the 8th and the 11th for Scorpio ascendant, or any questions?
Nope, that's all good for me, Ryan. Got things to take away and think about, but that was great.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and it's really worth thinking about Mercury for a Scorpio ascendant, because it can work well, but most of the time it doesn't. Anyway, so let's go ahead and move on to the sun for Scorpio ascendant. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Is that where we are, or should we do the moon?
Oh no, hey, let's do the moon.
The moon.
Let's keep it in order.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you for being here again. I look forward to seeing you with the moon.
Thanks, Ryan.